Hi, everyone. Welcome to the You-est You podcast. I am Julie. I am gratefully your host, and I am here with Dr. David Friedman. Really excited to introduce you to him, and this is going to be such a great conversation, so you definitely want to tune in. If you're on your commute, don't take notes, but take notes later. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Friedman. Dr. David Friedman is a #1 best-selling author. He is a doctor of naturopathy, clinical nutrition, and a chiropractic neurologist. He is the author of the book, Food Sanity: How to Eat in a World of Fads and Fiction. He is a board-certified alternative medical practitioner, board-certified in integrative medicine, and a registered naturopathic diplomat. He received a postdoctorate certification from Harvard Medical School, is a former teacher of neurology, and author of the college textbook, Understanding the Nervous System. Dr. Friedman is a contributing writer for many leading magazines, including U.S. News and World Report, Newsweek, Reader's Digest, Healthy Living, AARP Magazine, and Women's Day. You can find out more about Dr. David, we'll have it in the show notes as well, at drdavidfriedman.com. So without further ado, Dr. David, it is awesome to have you here.
Great to be here, Julie.
Well, I am so excited. There's a lot about you that I want to talk about and what you do and about your book. So we're going to dive in. And before we go into your book, and I know there's a lot to share there, I like to start out with this question about being your best self, your You-est You. And I think, what you're doing is so admirable. Maybe share a little bit, like what drove you to get into this world of natural medicine and naturopathy and writing this book and being your You-est You.
Yeah, well, a few questions. What got me into the book is my frustration as a syndicated TV and radio health expert. For 18 years, I've interviewed all the best scientists and the doctors and the authors, and my goal was I wanted to bring optimal health to my audience. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Instead, every guest would contradict the previous expert, leaving everybody, including me, more confused. I interviewed people that were the vegan and the plant-based and the paleo and the keto and the Mediterranean. And the opinions are as different as night and day. And I remember when oatmeal used to be healthy. Remember when it used to lower blood sugar? Remember the news? And now what are they saying? Hey, stay away from grains. They spike your blood sugar. Eggs used to cause high cholesterol. Now we're told, hey, wait a minute, they have lecithin. It's okay. They lower cholesterol. Coffee was bad for us. Now it prevents disease. So I really wrote Food Sanity to really go through the facts, fads, and fiction and answer the big question, what are we supposed to eat?
Woo! Okay, so let me ask you this. Did you ever struggle with your own health? I know sometimes, doctors, physicians, practitioners get into this world either because of their own struggle or somebody in their family, or what motivated you to even get into this world of, nutrition, neurology, and naturopathy?
Yeah, well, what happened is I hurt my back. I herniated my disc when I was younger, and I grew up with a medical family. My father, his father, and his father were medical doctors. So, of course, it was probably destined I was heading that way, and went to the medical doctor and says, yeah, you look like you're going to need surgery. And my mom said, why don't you try a chiropractor? I've heard they're really good with backs. So we went to a chiropractor. Long story short, in 3-4 weeks, I was fixed, didn't need the surgery. My dad found out. He said, wow, this is amazing. Why don't you explore chiropractic? Went to chiropractic and learned pretty much how to help people's backs and necks, headaches, you name it, came out into practice. And while I back up, I actually started teaching neurology, wrote a book on neurology, a textbook on neurology, started teaching neurology. And one of the students said to me, in your class, you mentioned that the brain and the spine controls the body, everything in the body. What controls the brain and the spine? Interesting question, but it didn't take me long to answer. Food. Food is the essence that controls our inner being of who we are. So I said, wow, if food is the controlling factor of who we are, I want to take it to another level. That's when I got interested in food and naturopathy, natural medicine. So now, fast forward, I'm in practice, and I've got this arsenal of ability to help people with back pain, neck pain, headaches, you name it. And I started finding people that weren't getting better. I would alter their eating and they would get better. I had one lady with severe sciatic pain down the leg, and I said, listen, I've tried everything I can. I'm good at sciatica. It's not helping. When you say it happens at night, what do you do before bed? And she says, well, before bed, I drink a big glass of milk. I said, you drink milk every night before bed? I said, that creates inflammation. That could be causing leg problems. Get off milk. 3 days later, her leg pain stopped.
Yeah.
I could have worked on her for 6 months, and if I didn't alter her eating habits, it would have never gotten better. So food has the power to heal, but it has the power to hurt. And that's what got me interested.
Powerful. And it reminds me of, I think it was, oh my gosh, the philosopher that said food is medicine. Not Hippocrates, Plato, one of them. Food is medicine. And I, I've experienced this myself in my own life. And I think that's a fantastic, powerful story where, it was as simple, you didn't have to put her on drugs. It literally was removing an item that causes inflammation. Let's dive in, because I think this topic is really, really important, this food sanity. And frankly, as somebody who I've studied nutrition, and I got to tell you, if even from my vantage point, there's so much put out there that is confusing and conflicting. Would love to dive in around, how do you eat in a world of fads and facts and fiction? Like, talk about that. Let's go into that right away.
Yeah, well, what I did is I created a common science meets common sense approach to figuring out the culinary conundrum. Because as we mentioned, you can't really trust science because it changes, sometimes weekly, but a lot of it's biased. And I spell that B-U-Y-A-S-E-D, means it's bought and paid for. And there's another saying, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And if your boss is paying you millions of dollars to have a finding go one way, studies show you tend to sway that way. So I show the reader in my book how to avoid these paid for studies. And then we take it another step. I show you how to tap into your gut, your instincts. Trust your instincts, not necessarily what you hear on the news. And number 3 is we look at the biology. What foods are we designed to eat? We look at our teeth, our saliva, our blood, our liver. What were we designed to eat? So if you combine common science, common sense, and biology, you have a 3-tier system of figuring out what we should and shouldn't eat. You can apply that every chapter and really a lot of aspects in life as well.
Awesome. So Dr. David, I can hear listeners that are like, okay, I'll read the book later, but can you tell me now some of those foods that you would put in the category that we are designed to eat and some that we're not designed to eat? Can you share some of what you've
one of the big ones is milk, since we brought up milk with the patient. I think milk is public enemy number 1.
Yeah.
And, we were bombarded with all this propaganda that we needed to be big and strong. And of course, the big billion-dollar industry of the advertisement with the milk mustache ad. And we've been bamboozled, folks. We don't need milk to be healthy. They teach us that, hey, if you want to be a healthy child, drink milk, but children that drink milk get more allergies, more asthma, more bronchitis, more infections than kids that don't drink milk. But when I bring up don't drink milk, first thing they say is, well, what about calcium? We need it for our strong bones. Let's address that and debunk that right here. Yeah. Calcium is inside of milk. It is there. Problem is, it's pasteurized before it gets to your glass. And that means it's heated, which is good because it burns the bacteria, but it also burns off a lot of the calcium, making it insoluble, not usable for the body. So then people say, well, what if I drank unpasteurized milk? Would that be good for bones? No, because milk, even unpasteurized, is 90% calcium, 10% magnesium. We need magnesium to bring it into the bones. How much do we need? 50-50. For it to get into the bones. Where can you get the perfect 50% dynamic duo of bone-building nutrients? From plants. The same place cows get their strong bones, same place that elephants, the biggest animal in the world, get their strong bones, gorillas. We don't need milk. And then another one, let's debunk. What about the protein? Well, the protein in milk is called casein. And what was casein designed for? It's to fatten up a 100-pound calf to a 2,000-pound cow. It's to fatten them up. So why would we want that in our body? Common sense. Remember I said tap into your instincts? Would you use rocket fuel inside of your moped engine? No, it's too much. Why would we use rocket fuel protein in our little bodies? We can't digest it. Also, casein is used to make glue. Think of the Elmer's glue label, the cow. So when we digest this glue-like substance, our body attacks it, produces histamines, and we inflame. So we debunk the protein, debunk the calcium, and there's so many good healthy alternatives. You don't need cow's milk.
Yeah, I love it. Well, a couple things. One, when you say milk, so you're talking about any dairy. We're talking about cheese, ice cream, anything in the dairy family, or do you mean milk specifically? I just want to be
Yeah,
clear.
anything made from milk. So that was
Me-
one of the ingredients. And in my diet program, I say if it's white, keep it out of sight. And
Yeah,
it's a simple diet. And one of them big is milk or anything made by that. But you know what? If you have recipes, you can use cashew milk. It's great. If you
yeah,
have cereal, almond milk, you don't need cow's milk. And
yeah.
cow's milk is a hormonal beverage, not for adults. It's for baby cows. It just made no sense.
I think you bring up an important piece, and I can tell you as somebody who has took out dairy about 4 years ago, I have a Hashimoto's autoimmune condition, and
Mhm.
I took out anything inflammatory, and it was a crazy, amazing, quick overnight shift in my body. And at first I thought, there's no issue. I've been eating it my whole life. You see, like you said, we see these paid for advertisings of celebrities and athletes that have milk mustaches. And so we believe that. And I will tell you, I did an elimination diet, took everything out, brought it back in. And when I put milk back in, I was so nauseous. I remember my husband was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Well, I had no idea," but it was amazing. And I'm wondering, do you recommend elimination diets? That really helped me to see what was going on. Is that something you also suggest?
Yeah, it's good to eliminate. Again, and we can talk more about food intolerances. That's an interesting topic, or gluten, and
Yeah.
to jump really right in it. I don't think gluten's really the big the antichrist of food. Somebody called it. It's like the worst thing,
Right.
because I think we have an inability to digest it in the last 15, 20 years, because
Yeah.
gluten's been digested for 3.5 million years. Our ancestors ate gluten. That's scientifically proven.
Yeah.
University of Utah says 40% of the ancestors' diet was gluten-containing grain. So we've been digesting gluten for millions of years. Why all of a sudden, just in the recent few years, are we having this ability? Because our body is exposed to chemicals like
Mm.
Monsanto and pesticides and obesogens that are
Yeah.
destroying our microbiome. So when we eat this gluten, it's a hard protein to digest. It inflames. We react to it. But people that could eat pizza 20 years ago, a whole pizza, now take one bite and they get sick. Well, gluten's messing us up. But I believe it's the chemicals that's messing it up, not the food.
Mm. And when you say chemicals, let's get into that more. So we're talking the chemicals used in packaged foods, in produce that's not organic. Like maybe give a little bit more, because I'm in the same camp, and it's something I'm trying to get a whole family system to understand this. So anyone listening, I think this is a very, very important topic. Talk more about chemicals, where they show up, how to eliminate them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everyone's always so worried about their weight. Nobody seems to be losing weight no matter how much food they don't eat or cut back. It comes right back. The problem is it's not necessarily food that's to blame. It's the chemicals in food that's
Yeah.
wrapped around food that sometimes you cook your food on. They're called obesogens. And
Mm.
these chemicals, they're endocrine disruptors.
Mm.
Not only are they endocrine disruptors, they actually been proven to increase the number of fat cells in the body.
Mm.
Harvard proved this. It was in PLOS Medical Journal that shows people that have the most obesogens actually have more fat cells. Especially, it's called a PFOA, perfluorooctanoic acid. That's a mouthful, but it shouldn't be a mouthful literally, but it is if you're cooking on these nonstick cook pans. And what's
Mm.
happening is this is getting in our body. It's not only making us bigger, but it's destroying our microbiomes, and that makes food so hard to digest. So that's one example. Now, let me share one thing. A BPA we've heard of, right? Bisphenol in the plastics. We know that's not good, but there's a place that BPA is that people don't realize. These thermal imaging papers, like your grocery store receipt, ATM, your airline ticket, don't touch them. If you do, wash your hands. When you
Mm.
go to the grocery store and she hands you the receipt, say, please put it in the bag. If you touch that, you're
Mm.
touching free BPA. It's in your system. It's free. That means it gets in your system. Plastics have to be heated. But BPA from these papers, just touch it. You eat food, you touch your eyes. It's in your system. It's making us fat. It's making us sick. It's making us have food intolerance issues.
Wow. Now that's a new one. I had not heard that. And that is really, really interesting. So there's BPA basically in those papers and the ink of the receipts that we get at the grocery
Yep.
store or the airline ticket. And I'm just thinking, all the time. I'll save them, hold them. So
Oh, get this. So I'm at a grocery store. It's a Whole Foods. And this guy, I'm looking at his shopping cart, and boy, he's eating healthy, non-GMO and organic and
yeah.
vegan. Like, wow. And I look and he's got this pot belly. And I'm like, wow, he really eats good. What does he have that for? It's like perfect everything. When the lady handed him the receipt, he puts it in his mouth. I watched this. He reaches in his wallet, takes out the receipt, puts it in his wallet. Here's what he did. He put it in his mouth, contaminated his whole mouth now with this chemical, touches it. It's on his finger. Now he contaminated his money. So next time he touches his dollar bills, he's getting more BPA. It's free BPA. It does come off that easy. So that could be the reason that he couldn't lose that weight. Also, there's something called phthalates, which is another plastic chemical in your shower curtain. People don't realize they eat right, they exercise, they go take the shower, and they're breathing all these chemicals and this fumes, from this heat, and it's getting in their bloodstream, and it's increasing our fat cells linked to cancer as well. So simple two answers. We show you the problem. Get phthalate-free shower curtains. They're at Amazon, Bed Bath & Beyond. They're very cheap. When you're looking for the BPA, look at the bottom for the recycle. If you see a 3 or 7 inside, stay away. It has BPA. If it has 1, 2, or 5, it's safe. So look on your plastic water bottles, your plastic containers, your Tupperware, and make sure you don't see a 3 or 7. If you do, stay away.
And you said the numbers that are okay are 1, 2, and
1, 2, and 5, right?
And 5.
Right. And really, I don't recommend putting anything in the microwave that's plastic. That's just not the way. Always put that in either ceramic or glass. And then don't leave plastic out in the heat in your car, because now this heat is melting the plastic that gets right into your water.
This is like so important. I think it's something we just overlook. And frankly, there's not a lot of education or knowledge unless you get into this field or read here and there, but it's confusing.
Exactly.
And this is helpful. Talk a little bit. I know there's a lot out there about gut, biome and how to, to enhance your gut microbiome. And obviously these chemicals strip it. What are ways to build our microbiome?
Yeah, the big thing is, people always worry about building it and eating right, getting the most probiotics, but you can't put out the flame when the match keeps getting lit. So no matter what you do, you've got to get rid of the cause, because we have this natural ability that body wants to homeostasis. It wants to heal itself, but not if you're throwing these chemicals. And one of the big ones is pesticides. Even they just announced wine. 100% of all wines were found to have pesticides. So pesticides actually cause leaky gut. And it can mess up the microbiomes. One quick tip, people say, do I need to go organic? If you can, USDA certified organic, but not everything. The Friedman rule of thumb, and my thumb, I'm pointing at my thumbnail, ready? If you can stick your thumbnail into the fruit or vegetable, more than likely pesticides getting in, buy it organic. If you can't, not such an issue. So berries like, blueberries, grapes, apples, pears, organic. But eggplant, pineapple, kiwi, not such an issue. Avocado, not such an issue. So that's one big thing you can do. And then again, the probiotics are good. You can eat fermented foods, which is sauerkraut's really good. Can be, kimchi is good. There's so many different types of things. But honestly, if you're not addressing the problem, it's not going to go away. That's a big issue. Address the problem. The body has a way to heal itself, and if you just got to get rid of the match that's lighting the flame.
So no, it's definitely so true. Talk about some of the fads. I mean, there's vegan, keto, bulletproof, paleo. I mean, there's so many different, low carb, no carb. I mean, I autoimmune protocol, which tends to be more my slant, taking out inflammatory foods.
The big one that I enjoyed is in the book is the paleo, because nothing raises more controversy than food politics, and you've got the plant-based and the paleo over here. Really, it's like Democrats versus Republican. It's gotten that bad. And in my book, Food Sanity, I've been able to bring a bipartisan lunch to the table that I think we can all enjoy and get along, because there's bits and pieces of both. The one thing I don't like about the paleo is, hey, cavemen ate beef, we should eat beef, they ate abundance of it. And I researched it, and science shows they really were plant-based eaters, and they based this on forensic evidence. They were not these big giant hunters, 6-7 foot hunters that had the mammoth on one hand and the cave on the other. That's how they show them in the movies and cartoons. But cavemen were actually in real life 5 feet tall. They weighed 171 pounds. That's clinically obese, right? A little 5 foot pound, a lot of fat, and they had fat to consolidate heat. So I ask you a question. Remember, common sense, forget science, forget. If you hand a spear to this obese, let's call him an Oompa. He's a little short, obese guy, and they say, go hunt a lion, tiger, and bear. Oh my, go for it. Do you think he had the speed, the endurance, and the stamina to go after a wild mammoth, lion, or tiger, or bear? No. Right. He didn't. In my book, I showed that the cavemen were the hunted, not the hunters. They carried spears for protection from other cavemen and animals. Now, if they killed an animal, and there it is, and they're hungry, would they eat it? Absolutely. But giving a choice, they would rather not risk their life and go after a lion or tiger or bear and use their what? Hands for picking. That could last for days. If you kill an animal, it's only good for 5 hours and it rots. They didn't have refrigeration. Why risk your life for one meal?
So interesting. So well said. I hadn't thought it that way. I'm curious because I'll tell you intuitively for me, it's interesting. I tried paleo, I've tried a lot of vegan, and I realized for me, at this point, I'm curious if it sounds like this is what you're saying. And I've come to this conclusion that I do mainly vegan because eggs don't work for me and I don't do dairy, but I do a little meat and I find a little bit here and there feels different energetically. Is that kind of what you're saying with the bipartisan?
Yeah, what I eat is a flexitarian diet. That's what I practice, which is the marriage between flexible and vegetarian. So it's an 80-20, 80% plant-based, 20% animal. And there's a few animals that I don't, but now the paleo people and the keto, they want to flip it. They want to say, 80% animal and a little small bit. No, we need more fruits and vegetables and grains. We don't need all this bacon for breakfast and hamburgers for lunch and steak for dinner. Come on, folks. Just say that out loud and look in the mirror. Does that sound healthy? Forget what the book tells you or this latest fad. Bacon for breakfast, beef for dinner every day. It makes no sense.
Interesting. I'm sure people listening, and for those of you who love paleo and, whatever rings true for you. And I will say, I can say, having done a lot of these different types of ways of eating, there is something about, I agree. And there's something about eating of the earth, eating a lot of vegetables and fruits that come from the earth. It's actually helped me to feel more, believe it or not, grounded, more focused. My energy is better. And it kind of it's just made sense to me. So maybe try it for those that are willing or open. And if not, then you do what you do. But I think that you have this makes a lot of sense to me.
And here's the thing. I looked at every food group, the good, the bad, and the ugly, including vegetables. I mean, there was I was not sitting favoritizing anything. And when I did get to the beef chapter, I said, wow, all these scientists and all these schools and Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, you name it, say the more red meat you eat, the more likely you are to get colon cancer, the number 2 killer among cancers. So I said, really, that's the consent. But why? They didn't know why till a few years ago. They found a molecule called NEU5GC that exists in cattle. It's high in cattle, but it's not in chicken. It's not in fish. It's not in vegetables. When we eat this molecule, our body attacks it. It inflames. And guess what? In colon cancer, they have found this molecule. Mystery solved. They now know why it's causing an increase in it. Create this molecule. So I say to people, hey, if you've got to eat red meat, go with bison. It has less of that molecule, very minuscule about. Or fish or chicken. It doesn't have this molecule. And it gets a step further. Our body has a molecule called NEU5AC, which is in the lining of our arteries. Okay. When we eat this cow molecule that's just one atom different, our body attacks it and autoimmune disease goes right to our arteries. That also shows, hey, that's what makes higher heart disease among meat eaters as well. So it's interesting, we look at the science, and you know what? Number one cause of choking in America, the Heimlich maneuver, number one, a piece of meat has been stuck in the esophagus. Not chicken, not fish, because we can break those down. We don't have the enzymes or the teeth to break that down. And if we do get it into the stomach, meat takes 5 hours to digest, chicken 90 minutes, fish half hour. Wow. So it's harder to digest. We just don't break it down. And if it putrefies, it turns into uric acid, ammonia, and that leads to all kinds of leaky gut. So really, I'm not anti-animals. It's just when I looked at the meat, all the studies that were favoritism was paid for by the American Cattle Association.
Yeah. Wow. That's so interesting. And again, I didn't know that. And for those listening, excellent information. What do you, if you were to look at the other animals with chicken, with fish, like say a little more about how to choose the best. Like I will tell you, I don't feel like chicken digests well with me right now. So unfortunately, and it's a little sad because I actually used to really like it. So, how can you get your protein? Let's say you don't eat meat at all. You vegan or vegetarian. Maybe just talk a little bit about if you do eat meat, what are the best kinds to eat? And then if you don't, what are ways to get that protein?
Yeah, my favorite chapter was the fish chapter, because I'm a fish lover. Problem is, every time I eat fish, it's like, oh, am I getting mercury? Am I getting poison?
Right.
Am I getting pollution? Because everyone's always talking how bad it is. And I said, I want to research this. Like, first I looked into the mercury. Where are these people that are mercury toxicity from wild-caught fish, that have mental disorders, that have Alzheimer's? Where's the science? And I researched it, and shockingly, and I researched it for me because I'm not eating the stuff if it's bad for me. Trust me, folks. I don't want it in my body. So I really dove in because I love fish. And I found the opposite. People that eat the most fish are the healthiest. They're epitome of health. They don't have mercury toxicity. And I said, well, wait a minute. What about these pregnant females, right? They say, oh, stay away from fish, mercury. I said, let me find these studies. And where's these fetus that have been injured? And I found the opposite. Cultures that eat the most fish, we're talking 3 meals a day, not 3 a week like I have children that have higher IQs than those that didn't eat fish. So I said, well, wait a minute. Mercury is in fish, and mercury is not great for us. Where did this come from? And I looked at the redheaded stepchild of food is fish, because there's no money. There's no hormones. There's no antibiotics. There's no food coloring. There's no sulfur drugs. None of that in wild-caught fish. There's no money. So the government says, let's scare everybody about fish and put up where? Cattle, because that's the most money. The number one customer in America, number one customer for Big Pharma antibiotics is farm animals, and number one on the list is cattle. 80% of all antibiotics sold in America, farm animals, and number one customers, cattle. So do you really think that they want to put on a showcase fish that they don't make any money? So then this goes even deeper. So I said, well, wait a minute, there is mercury in fish. Why is it not bad for us? Because if there's selenium that's higher than mercury in fish, it cancels out the negative reaction or negative process of mercury. So the more selenium you have, the less issue you have to worry about mercury. So in my book, Food Sanity, I have 18 of the most commonly eaten fish. All of them, except for one, has more selenium than mercury, and that one is called the mako shark. So folks, play it safe. If you're see it on the menu, mako shark, don't eat it. But wild-caught fish is not an issue. It's healthy.
So wild-caught, now not farm-raised.
Not farm-raised. No, not farm-raised. Like, and I got to get back to nature.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like, we were at Whole Foods. I thought it was healthy. The salmon, it was farm-raised. I think it was like especially farm-raised. It wasn't, and it tends to be a little bit fattier, and I've been slowly getting myself off of that because I know. But even the farm raised that's done so in a kind humanitarian way, you still would wild. You always want wild caught.
Well, wild-caught, and you can't trust labels, because Consumer Report found 52% of all labels were wrong. They said wild-caught when it was farm-raised, so you have to trust your eyes. So here's an easy tip. Ready? Yeah. Humans that are professional swimmers are pretty lean. I've never seen a professional swimmer that was fat. They're very lean, because swimmers are leaner athletes. Well, salmon are professional athletes. They're swimmers. They go upstream, right? The one that they have the most muscle. Yeah. So knowing that, if you see striations of white in the meat, it's farm raised. That's fat. It should be nice, big, beautiful, dark piece of meat without these striations of fat, because farm raised are fat because why? They're stuck in a cage. Yeah. They're not swimming. They're not professional swimmers. And that fat is where the PCBs show up. They're fed soy. They're fed corn. And guess what? That's pesticides. They're not giving those fish organic corn, organic soy. Right. So you're eating these pesticides when you're eating farm raised. So that's kind of a key there. So trust your eyes on that.
Excellent. That's such an excellent tip. All right. I'm convinced. And those listening, really use your eyes. I know there's a big difference. You can see it. All right. Talk about, for those that are vegetarian or vegan, what are really good sources of protein, good sources of fat, ways to kind of get that in if you're not touching meat?
Yeah, I put a big part of my book on how vegetarians do get enough protein. So we've been bombarded thinking, oh, protein. It's a big myth. We do get enough protein from vegetables, from cauliflower, from broccoli. There's ways to get protein. Almonds, we don't need to worry about that with animals. And then I talk about the B12 myth on how it's all about the B12 worry. And, I think it's just a lot of propaganda. You can eat healthy. Look at some of these people in the blue zones. I mean, they live to be 100 years of age and they're healthy and they're primarily plant-based. They don't do animals protein. So you can't really look at that. But again, healthy fats would be like the avocado's real good. Coconut's really good for the healthy fats. There's some really good fats there. And again, if they don't do eggs, that's another option to do. Walnuts, very good healthy fat. In fact, when I taught neurology, I actually had a walnut on the screen, and I was teaching the lobes of the brain. It looks so much like a brain that none of the students knew it until the end. I said, by the way, that's a walnut. They go, what? I go, interesting. Walnut looks like a brain, but it's healthy fats that actually support the health of the brain. It's really a great healthy fat because remember, the brain is mostly fat. So when someone calls you a fathead, it's a compliment because the brain is fat, the brain is cholesterol, and this walnuts is very good brain food. So you can get a lot of, you don't need to worry about that. But again, with me, like you personally, I can't just do pure plant-based. I've done the vegan, didn't work for me. I need some animal protein. Yeah. Again, I just feel better myself. And I think a lot of people do. I think there's a little bit missing for me. Yeah. And, I have nothing against the vegans that are pure vegans. It's just, it didn't work for me.
Right. And I think the point is, if everyone tuning in, know your body, listen to your wisdom. Like you said, common sense, common gut, listen to your gut. We're all made differently. I loved the idea of being vegan. I tried it and it didn't work for me. I did need just a little bit of animal protein here and there. I do very little, probably 10%, but that really makes a difference. Listen to your body, listen to what works. I love what you're saying. 2 questions. I'm curious, this is because as a cocoa lover, and I use a lot of cocoa powder, not chocolate with the sugar in it. What's your thought about cocoa? And what's your thought about sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit?
Yeah, in the diet, I say if it's white, keep it out of sight. That's it, folks. There's my diet. You will lose weight, you'll feel better, you'll keep it off. And with white is it's the corn, dairy, sugar, salt, and flour. And when you're bringing up the sugar, it's like I don't think God made a design flaw when He created our tongue to enjoy sweets. I don't think that these taste buds are a mistake. We need sweets. Just stay away from the white processed man-made sugar. Instead, go with the monk fruit, go with the stevia, go with the xylitol. If you want something for desserts, do date paste instead of caramel. So there's ways that we can really enjoy it. And I share that in my book, that food doesn't have to be awful. You can enjoy good food. Just go to the natural. And salt, I love this one. It's like salt's so bad for you, right? You hear this. Folks, common sense. We're 70% salt water. How can salt be bad? We're made out of it. It's mostly what we are. We cry our tears are salty. You just want the right kind of salt, not the white process. That is bad for you. You want black Hawaiian volcanic salt. It has 86 minerals. Or ancient sea salt from Redmond. These are great and healthy. They make you full. They bring good health. They're good for the heart. The white salt's bad for the heart. So it's kind of like, just like you said, go back to nature. Just look at certain ways. And who knows that salt makes you hungry? Movie theaters. That's why they salt the popcorn. They know you're going to crave because it's empty calories. You want more jujubes. You're going to come back for a drink. Fast food restaurants salt their food with white salt because it makes you hungry. It's empty. It makes you crave more fries. But when you salt with like black Hawaiian salt, you're full. You don't eat as much. Your body's satisfied. So, don't blame salt.
I love it. No, I think that's brilliant. I remember when I did a master's degree in health and wellness coaching and nutrition. And one of the books we read was Sugar, Fat, Salt. And I remember it goes into, as well as the book Mindless Eating. And it reminds me of what you're talking about, which really goes into frankly, the advertising, say propaganda that goes into really getting foods that are processed to have so much salt, sugar, and fat that it becomes so craveable that your brain, you can't help but want it. And I think touching upon this, and as I've been very open. I have a former, eating disorder of compulsive overeating, and for me, one of the gifts of having an autoimmune condition has been taking all that out has just changed the game. I don't even crave it, and I feel so different. So I know a lot of people listening, struggle with food and addiction and using food to comfort. I don't know if you go into that at all or you have any thoughts on it, but I know for me, it's been a big piece of my life, and learning to nourish with love versus, for comfort.
Yeah, and and it's funny because people that know, hey, sugar's bad, so I'll go with these artificial sweeteners, and that makes you actually crave more sugar. It makes you miserable. It's
Yeah.
chemicals. And the word artificial means what? Fake. As Elaine says in Seinfeld, fake, fake, fake. Why would you want the word artificial in anything you buy? It's made in a lab. It's made with chemicals. There's nothing natural, and there's no science whatsoever that shows you will lose weight or curb your appetite by taking artificial sweeteners. In fact, the opposite shows up. The University of Texas found, ready, 41% increase in risk of obesity for every one diet soft drink you drink that has artificial sweeteners. The average person doesn't stop at one, they have 5. So you have a 41% increased risk of obesity from a diet soda. And you think, well, wait a minute, obesity? It says 0 calories. Because these chemicals are made with ready. And I did a Lifetime special when I was the health expert, and I showed these chemicals. Benzene, which is made as gasoline, and acetone, nail polish. And I go through this stuff that, the stuff, antifreeze, all these chemicals that are used to make these artificial sweeteners, and they short circuit the brain. They short circuit the body. They make you sick. They've been linked to even autoimmune disease.
Dr. David, if I think it can become for some people overwhelming when they start to look at all the things to change. And I for me, it's been a process. So now to me, this is my lifestyle, but for somebody who's, just starting out or in that mid zone, like what are maybe 2 to 3 actionable things, the first things you would recommend doing that will create a change but is not overwhelming? Because I want to give people actionable tips, because we're going to have all of this in the show notes. But what would you recommend are the 3 most important things to do right away?
Number 1 would be play detective. Don't be so trusting. We have this belief that, hey, if it's in a bottle and it's in a box, it's been studied, it's been looked at by the FDA. Forget eating like our cavemen. Forget eating like a gorilla, like the vegans say. I say eat like your great-grandparents, because that's when when food was pure. It didn't have these chemicals and pesticides and all these plastics and BP and all the stuff we've talked about. Yeah. So eat like your grandparents. Go back to the old natural way. And if you see something on the label that says, wait, this says phenylhalapopethylaminamide, what the heck is that? Google it. Say, that's the stuff that's used to make cement. It's not going in my body. We got to play detective. If you see things you don't know and you Google it, don't eat it.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. Great.
And the other one is the show, the word you. Look in the mirror. That's my secret to good health, because healthcare belongs to you, not your doctor, not your pharmacist, not your healthcare providers or your health insurance. Healthcare begins with you taking control of your life. It's not about the latest fad diet or what I'm saying. It's about you and recognizing, hey, I've got to make a difference today because nobody else is going to.
So great. This is, there's a lot that we covered. I need like a moment after a moment of silence to take this in, but it makes so much sense. I love what you said. I encourage people really, really to do this. I think you're right on. Don't take for granted what you're reading, what you hear. Think about, like you said, a lot of these, the milk ads, who are they paid for? By the milk people. So just do that research yourself. If it's a long name that doesn't make sense, it's probably fake. It's probably not good for you. I always say, like, if it doesn't have, if it's of the earth, right, and doesn't need a barcode, usually you're pretty safe.
Yeah. Same with vitamins. If you look on the back of a vitamin and you see leaf and stem and fruit and vegetables, you go, oh, that's whole foods. That belongs. But if you see a bunch of chemical names or you don't see anything natural, it's synthetic. It's made in a lab. So really, same with supplements. You really want to go back to whole foods. We weren't created in a lab, and our food shouldn't be either.
Any last bit of wisdom that we didn't cover, or something you could share with our listeners, something empowering, or any information, wisdom that could just be helpful for those tuning in that are trying to get their head on straight with all of this?
Yeah, something that's interesting is, and a lot of people don't realize this, even that work at the grocery stores. You can't really trust labels, and a lot of times you don't know if it's GMO or if it's organic, or, here's a little secret tip that not many people know. That label, it's called the PLU code, that little sticker, price lookup code. If it begins with a 9, it's organic. If it begins with an 8, it's GMO. So the saying that I tell people is, if it's 9, it's fine. If it's 8, it isn't great.
Oh,
And
wow.
that way, and that's where you can, and even the people that work at the grocery store, you can show them, they go, wow, I didn't know that. Now, if it's 4 numbers without an 8 or 9, it's conventionally grown, and then you can't chance it. That can be pesticides and so forth. So really look for, if it's 9, it's fine, and that's what you want to eat.
Very helpful. Wow. Okay. I did not know that. I'm going to be checking everything now, looking for the 9. 9 is fine. Awesome feedback. Thank you so much for sharing such incredible wisdom. And I know that we'll have all your information and your book, which is called Food Sanity. Did I get that right? Food Sanity?
Yeah, Food Sanity.
Yeah, I would highly recommend everyone get their hands on it. Is it on Amazon? And
yeah, wherever books are sold, also on Amazon. You can go to
yeah.
foodsanity.com, and I actually have a compilation 92-page cookbook with recipes that's free. So you can download that
Oh,
from there. I didn't have room for recipe because the book's so thick. So what I did is I created that free ebook. It's 92 pages, and if it's white, keep it out of sight. I'll show you how to get the right sugar, the right salts, the right flour, and enjoy food the way we're supposed to. Food should still be enjoyable.
So awesome. I love it. Foodsanity.com. We'll have all that information. And for everybody, you get that's awesome. Free recipes.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for what you're doing and what you're speaking about. I think this is really important. And most importantly, to everybody listening, looking in the mirror, checking in with your gut, literally and figuratively, not taking the labels for granted, looking for the 9. Like, these are things that you can do, looking for chemicals that you want to stay away from. Just such great wisdom and advice. I so honor you and thank you for sharing. This was really gracious of you.
That's great. It's been a lot of fun, Julie. I love your message, and I'm just glad to help share it with the tribe.